What up, my fellow NBA lovers? This is your guy, Marcellus Ease. And this will be CJ and Dame, a duel that's on the clock, volume 4. And this time around, we have yet another first round elimination for the Portland Trailblazers. This time on the hands of the Denver Nuggets without their starting point guard, shooting guard, and backup guard. You know, this is amazing with the Portland Trailblazers of how easily they gave up points. They fouled too much. And yet, even without Jokic on the floor, the Denver Nuggets were still able to cook. Now, Dame, this offseason is going to be faced with a huge dilemma and a huge decision to make, as he may have to either request a trade or he may have to have the Portland Trailblazers exercise the valuable contract of CJ McCollum, which expires in 2024, and he'll be at the age of 32 to utilize that for a trade and get some assets out of that and try to build something that's more compatible around Dame. They're going to talk about this every once in a while. I'll check in.
In the first round in 6 games, the Joker continuing to have an MVP season, 36, 8-6. As Denver now moves on to face the Suns, leaving one of the best players in the game in Lillard pondering his future. Dame, talk to us.
I mean, we didn't win a championship, so obviously where we are now isn't good enough. I don't know what a shakeup looks like.
Well, it's going to be on you, Dame. You can either request a trade or have Portland Trailblazers have CJ McCollum's contract get utilized for some assets. But you're in pretty much a bit of a dilemma because you built a whole brand out of being loyal and kind of being the hardworking, grinding guy. So the decision is really going to be up to you. Are you going to be off brand, or the fact that you know this team isn't good enough because you had a first round exit in 2018 in the hands of the Pelicans. You had a first round exit last year against the Lakers. And also last season, you guys struggled pretty much throughout the whole season, having to play in a play-in against the Memphis Grizzlies in order to get in the playoffs. And now this season, yet you guys have another first round exit on a team that's dealing with a lot of injuries. So yeah, you guys definitely going to have to take a look at things. And also the Portland Trailblazers are a team that's one of the most expensive teams as far as players on that salary cap. So Dame is really going to be up to you.
Changes will be made or could be made, but obviously as is, it wasn't good enough. We came up short against a team without their starting point guard and shooting guard. Will Barton didn't play, and Jamal Murray didn't play, and we came up short. So obviously where we are isn't good enough to win the championship if it's not good enough for us to get.
And as you see right there, it was way too easy for Jokic to get inside. Nurkic kept getting into foul trouble, and it was just way too easy for Jokic just to cook.
Out of a first round series with 2 of their best 3 or 4 players not on the floor.
All right, so pay attention to this. The internet sparking. He posted a picture of his walk-in outfit. We don't have that for you, but check it out on IG. Fresh to death, the man can dress. But I want to focus on the caption. This: how long should I stay dedicated? How long till opportunity meets preparation? Shout to Nipsey Hussle. Stephen A., I'll start with you here. Last time that I checked, another shout to Nipsey Hussle, he's still the man. Is this the end of Dame time in Portland?
I have a hard time saying so. And the reason I have a hard time saying so is because that's my man. I love him to death, and I've spoken to him on many, many occasions over the years, many occasions. Molly, Max, this dude is dogged about his love for the city of Portland and his commitment to the Blazers organization. I wanted with the Knicks. I mean, that would be a dream come true for me to have a clutch dude like that.
Of course.
Shut
up with the Knicks talk.
Well, listen to me. I'm trying to educate you, brother. I told you I spoke to him. I'm just trying to give you information.
You're saying it's one of these read between the lines situations.
I'm trying to, no. I spoke to him, not yesterday, but I've spoken to him on many occasions. And I'm confessing to you, I mean, just like I brought up the Knicks to you, I brought up the Knicks to him. And he'd say, get the hell away from me with that. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm trying to tell you. That's what I was getting to.
Yeah,
so he feels like Max does. He said that on many, many occasions. But he is made of a different ilk, y'all. He's frustrated right now, knowing him the way that I do.
But Stephen A., is he going to be willing to die on that hill? See, that little elk that he said he's cut from, he has to understand the Portland Trailblazers are not a free agent destination. And that team for years have been trying to put something around him and CJ and trying to create a winning formula. And even though they spent a lot of money, none of it's working.
Right to be. He's not the kind of person that wants to go to LA and play with LeBron. He's not made of that ilk. He's not built that way. He's got 4 years and $196 million remaining on his contract. You got to trade the farm to get equitable compensation in return for him. So it seems to be a daunting task. Here's what I would tell you.
Or do you, Stephen A? I'm not sure Portland's going to get a lot for Dame. Not only his contract is huge, and right now he's at the age of 31. So we'll see how that plays out.
His perfect world, it's about somebody coming to Portland to join him, not about him going elsewhere to join them. And that's going to be a pretty hard sell for the Portland Trailblazers. And it's time somebody brought this up. I understand management. I look at Nurkic. I have no use for him. I know Jokic is no joke. But to abuse Nurkic like that and Nurkic to have no response is just pathetic, where Enes Kanter has to come in there and try something.
Damn, that's how you know you're desperate. Enes Kanter is a player throughout his whole career. He's finished in the bottom 10 players among centers as far as defense. And also, Nurkic, he just kept getting into foul trouble this whole series. And Jokic was just too easily scoring buckets on him, whether it was jump shots or just getting to the hoop. Especially getting into the hoop, I would say, was the killer. But Nurkic just couldn't stay on the floor too long. That's a major problem with the Blazers. And also, Nurkic, he gets injured way too often. Just his contract overall is not paying dividends.
Okay, you look at CJ McCollum. He ain't Damian Lillard, but he's pretty damn good at making good money. I've always stated to both of them, to their face, the combination of the two can't win because they're smaller guards and they can score on anybody, but defense is going to be a problem. You got to overcompensate.
Yep, and we've seen that in a double overtime game. I mean, that's one of the reasons why Dame time has to happen so often. Dame has to bail this team out, and they barely win these games. It always comes down to a last possession. Even if Dame has 50 points or whatever, it's that they're just giving up points on the other end way too quick, especially with the combination of Melo and Enes Kanter on the floor at the same time. And they figured Robert Covington would pay off defensively for this team, but it hasn't really worked out.
You look at Terry Stotts. When do we sit up there and say he's not the guy? Now, I'm not saying that he doesn't deserve to be a head coach in the NBA. What I'm saying is he's the kind of guy that knows his X's and O's. He knows what he's doing. But in terms of being a leader that can galvanize the troops and maximize the potential around you, I don't think Terry Stotts has ever shown that. And
I wouldn't say that as much, but I would say their coach right now, whatever plan and just overall voice that he has in the locker room, it's getting too repetitive and players are way too comfortable. The message is just not getting through and the game plan overall isn't working. So the Portland Trailblazers is definitely going to have to go another way. And this coach right now, he's had a long tenure with the Portland Trailblazers. Sometimes some things just run its course.
At some point in time, you've been there forever. I mean, my God, when do you make some kind of switch? Not just with personnel, but with coaching. Because clearly whatever you have ain't going to get it done. And they never do it. Yeah. And that's why Damian Lillard has expressed frustration. He's tired of going down like this, wasting a 55-point performance in Game 5 like they did. Ridiculous.
Yeah.
And also, we have to talk about CJ McCollum because he got outplayed by Monty Morris. Once again, that backcourt duo of CJ and Dame, they're definitely on the clock.
I don't see it as Neil O'Shea. What you're just pointing out, I see it as Neil O'Shea, not Stotts in that case, Stephen A. Look, we know that Portland doesn't have quite enough. It's not a market that's going to attract high-priced free agents or where guys are going to demand to get traded to.
Agreed. And that's how we seen it play out with Carmelo Anthony when he was in his prime. He wasn't even looking at the Portland Trailblazers. It's not only until the end of his career in which he couldn't really find a team to join that Dame and CJ were able to get him to come to the team.
So if you do find it, Damian Lillard needs another superstar with him. He doesn't have that. But to give up the farm to get a superstar, they're going to let Portland know, I'm not staying in Portland, most likely. So what do? It's not enough. They may have to trade McCollum, although Anthony Simons, he's only 21, can jump out the gym, can shoot. They have some interesting pieces that maybe they could cobble something together and bring in a third guy along with Lillard and McCollum.
No, that backcourt with CJ and Dame is not going to work out. And also, the Portland Trailblazers did make a trade this season to get Norman Powell on the defensive end, but yet once again, that did not pay dividends.
Kind of put them over the top or get them to the next level. The Knicks, Stephen A., I don't know why. If I'm the Trailblazers, the Knicks could offer me every asset they have, every player on the roster, and all their draft picks. Why would I trade that for Damian Lillard? Forget that. No, is it the end of Dame time in Portland? I don't think it is.
That's really up to Dame, and especially that might be up to the Portland Trailblazers because they're paying a lot of money for this team with all these first-round exits. And I believe that 2019 Western Conference appearance for the Portland Trailblazers is pretty much fool's gold. It's something that they're kind of hiding behind by keeping this team together. Look, we made that Western Conference Finals, but that year, a lot of these teams were weak. You had Donovan Mitchell killing the OKC Thunder with Paul George and Russell Westbrook. And overall, the Golden State Warriors have proved, even with Kevin Durant hurt, that they were light years ahead of the Portland Trailblazers by sweeping them in that series.
I don't think it is. I think they're going to have to make a move to make the roster better along the lines of what I just said. Figure out either whether it's McCollum or maybe even, because you're right, they're small guards, or maybe even package other interesting pieces, draft picks they have together to bring in a third guy who's not Carmelo Anthony. Oh, look at that. He has more left than we thought. But a guy who's still an all-star caliber player. But Stephen A., even then, is that a championship roster? Damian,
Well,
is it a championship roster?
Listen. Let's be clear. I answered the question.
Hold on, that is a great question asked by Max Kellerman. First of all, every time we've seen Dame go up against the top teams, the Golden State Warriors, the Lakers last year in the bubble, they've always pretty much got swept. So they're nowhere near the championship caliber team that they should be. And once again, last year, they pretty much struggled the whole season, even though they dealt with injuries very early on in the season. Before the pandemic had started, they were hovering at the very bottom of the Western Conference. Once again, they had to fight tooth and nail just to make the playoffs last season.
Tell you what Damian Lillard told me as to what his thinking has been consistently throughout the years. His position has never changed. Last night was the first inkling of any kind of change in his persona. I know a whole bunch of people, I should say a whole bunch of people because he doesn't have a whole bunch of people in his inner circle because he don't roll like that. But the people in his inner circle, I know well as well. And all of them feel he should leave.
And they're 100% right about that. The last 5 years, Portland Trailblazers have been a top 10 offense and a bottom 10 defense. And pretty much, once again, they've exercised all options. They spent a ton of money. I'm pretty sure ownership is looking at this. They took a loss with the pandemic situation, and they're just getting knocked out in the first round. And then when they go up against the top teams, they're pretty much getting swept. So they're going to have to reevaluate if they want to keep spending this money just to barely make the playoffs and get a quick exit by a top-ranked team.
I feel he should leave. A guy like that does not belong in a small market. A guy like that needs to be on center stage with the eyes of the basketball world descending upon him because he's that kind of talent. He's that big time. But if you're going to sit up there and say, well, he ain't going anywhere, we gonna keep him here, then don't you need to exhaust every means and measure to make sure he has what he needs?
Yeah.
Don't you need to alter your roster if you're Neil O'Shea? If you start Max, he's been there 9 years. They've gotten out of the first round 3 times. Again, I'm not saying the man can't coach. I'm not saying he doesn't know what he's doing. I'm not saying he doesn't belong to be a head coach. Nate McMillan did a good job in Indiana, but he didn't get out of the first round. He lost his job. He ended up going to Atlanta and showing that he needed to be in a better market than Indiana or a better situation. Terry Stotts is not the guy that is going to get this particular Portland Trailblazers roster to any kind of promised
Let's
land.
be honest.
He's not
Real
that
quick,
guy.
Max,
Yeah.
I just want to show everybody that IG post because we talked about it a little bit before. We didn't have it, and I'm told that we have it now. There you can see the Nipsey Hussle quote, the pic, the whole thing. Obviously, no accident that he's putting that out there after that loss.
Well, speaking of Nipsey Hussle, he's feeling himself because he's got the keys to the city.
Yeah, he definitely has the keys to the city, but he might want to give them shits back. But interesting thing about Dame, I had seen Chris Webber speak about him, and Chris Webber kind of reflected on him as if Dame was the current Chris Webber because Chris Webber had the option of going to the Lakers the year Shaq and Kobe had gotten Karl Malone and Gary Payton on the team. They could have easily made a trade for Chris Webber, but Chris Webber rejected, and he was not able to chase that championship dream. And a lot of people just remember him of being a good player, but never really having a chance outside of that 2003 Sacramento Kings run, or that I believe that was in 2002, of just, you know, having a chance to win a championship. Just staying in that small market in Sacramento pretty much kind of hindered him from being that known player. I mean, also Chris Webber had injuries and such and forth, but it is what it is. But Dame definitely has to make a decision. And is he going to die on that hill of being that loyal player that stays with his team and he's not taking shortcuts? So we'll see how this plays out. And until next time, you guys stay safe. Peace.